Hey everyone, I got an exciting show for you today. You know this gentleman because he's been on the channel many, many times. He represents what I think is a very hot market, a market that will eventually produce tremendous opportunities. But thus far, I have been wrong. Brian, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm very interested today, right? We're going to talk about some real estate numbers in Las Vegas. But before we do that, I actually read a number about institutional grade apartments in Las Vegas. Right now, it had the biggest year over year swing. See if I can go from memory. It went from roughly 5% delinquent tenants to roughly 11. So a 6% jump. I think that makes sense, right? When you think about Las Vegas, the service sector, the entertainment world, it probably makes sense that you're going to see the pain in apartments first, is my guess. But let's see about housing. Housing thus far has been, I think it's 3 months in a row, record median prices. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on.
Yeah, so in Vegas, it's a tale of two completely different worlds. Like you said and alluded to. Yes, on the low end, the apartment housing sector, and also let's be clear, Las Vegas has been building a ton of apartments over the last 3 to 5 years. But the majority of these apartments that are being built are luxury high-end apartments. So it's easy to make blanket statements, and that's what grabs the headlines, that's what sells.
Yeah.
But you have to delve a little bit deeper. So when we're talking about apartments, you have luxury apartments that cost thousands of dollars, and then you have your basic apartments. So when they're discussing the fact that apartments delinquencies are 10%, this is by far and large more geared towards the low end. And we're actually really now starting to feel a little bit more pain on the low end. A lot of the people that I've spoken to that are, more blue collar workers, a buddy of mine that I used to work with years ago, he's got a great job. I'm not going to say where he works, but he works for a great Fortune 500 company. It makes a good living. His wife worked on the Strip and banquet. And he said, before COVID hit, we had money in the bank. We actually did some remodeling in the house. Didn't see it coming. She's been out of work for 6+ months. Now that the stimulus money has expired, Nevada was the last state to apply for the $300 per week credit. So we still haven't even seen that money. So a lot of people that were able to survive are now, their coffers have run dry. So this is part of the reason why on the low end, you're seeing some pain, because for your casino workers, for your banquet servers, for people that work on tips on the Strip is basically an abomination right now. There's just no other way to put it. It's a bad crowd. No locals are willing to go there. Most of your high-end people have already been warned. So going to the Strip is a very different experience. There's not money really being transferred.
Is it true what I read in the headline about the Strip that it's damn near dangerous now?
It's not even damn near. It is.
Okay.
And there's always been a seedy element. You go downtown, take a wrong turn. Ooh, it looks a little freaky. You go one block east of the Strip. Sometimes you're like, whoa, we need to get back towards the lights. But this is a whole different animal. I've been here for 30 years and I've never seen what we're seeing now. I've only been to the Strip one time since COVID. I went there with my girlfriend about 3 weeks ago to a very high-end restaurant in an Aria. Aria is typically a very high-end hotel casino. It caters more to a business crowd. And the moment, there's no valet. So literally, I parked next to a Ferrari. That doesn't really put a good taste in your mouth. I didn't drive my nicer car because there's no valet. So you go in, and from the moment that I walked into the casino, it was a different demographic. We'll put it that way. It was a much lower demographic. Definitely not the crowd that you would normally see. It was pretty desolate in there. You look at the tables and guys are sitting half off their seats. There's been a lot of reports of just people just being just straight rude, throwing things at the dealers. It's just a really unsavory crowd. It really just puts a bad taste in your mouth. So a lot of the locals, we've gone down there one time and go, yep, it's what we heard. Yeah. Every day, every night, there's shootings and stabbings. What was it? 2 days ago, there was a stabbing in the morning at Grandview Towers, which is a timeshare on the south end of the Strip. Then that night, a 40 to 50-year-old male got into a shootout with security at South Point, which was right down the street. This is just one night, and this is what was reported.
Wow.
Vegas does a good job of suppressing anything negative on the strip to the media. So the week before that, there was a rapper named Moneybagg Yo who had a birthday party. They pulled up a Maybach and there was a shooting at, I think it was Aria Valet. I mean, these are things that don't occur, let alone on a nightly basis. So, and again, these are what's been reported in the media. This doesn't have anything to do with what hasn't been reported and what didn't leak out. So
Wow.
the strip is a very difficult place and it's going to be difficult for quite some time. So economically, you have to think the people that are employed by these hotels and casinos, they're not making the same tips that they were. They've still been furloughed or now they've been laid off. So the low end of the market in that respect, there's no more money left because of the stimulus, because of the unemployment stimulus. So you are going to see a certain amount of these delinquencies. But let's also be honest, on low end apartment rentals, you always have an abnormally high rate of delinquencies. As I reported before, when you're dealing with more blue chip properties, they usually were running 3.5% delinquency and they've been running at 7%. So yes, things are worse, but it's not like an apocalyptic event as is being reported. But that's also right now. Trump also just said no more stimulus talks. That is going to have a dramatic effect everywhere, but especially in Las Vegas on that low end. And like I said, my friend, they burned through their entire savings and she's only getting a pittance of unemployment right now. So they're literally paycheck to paycheck and they live in a nice area and have a decent home that they've stayed in for 20 years and their mortgage is very, very low. So yes, it is going to affect people, but so far it's been on the low end. On the other end of the spectrum, my neighbor, she just sold her house. And so she needs to rent a place for a while. And she's like, this is insane. And she was telling me what was going on. I'm like, wow, I need to raise the rent on some of my tenants. When it comes to like higher end rentals, it's insane. I mean, the rents have gone through the roof astronomically. So that's why I'm saying there's really a tale of two completely different worlds right now in Las Vegas. We'll get to the numbers later, but one metric will really illustrate just how disproportionate things are right now.
Yeah. I think what you're highlighting is what I've been reporting for a couple of months is the outcome for many things. And I'm calling it the K-shaped recovery, right? The K is basically everybody went down together, right? Everything shut down. But now what we're seeing is a tale of two markets, as you correctly said. The ones with work from home jobs, not really impacted, working for Fortune 500, up. And boy, if you're in the service sector, catering, entertainment, need tips, you're on the other side. So the real question when you think about a K-shaped recovery is, does that low end, is it like termites and the foundation becomes unstable and it works its way up? Or does the recovery come fast enough where the high end or the upper end of the K is strong enough to wait for the recovery to help the others? And I just don't know the answer. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a tremendous amount of like construction and development going on in Las Vegas. I mean, we're breaking records as far as new home sales. So, last time the very low end of the market crumbled within itself because all of a sudden one day we just pulled the plug on every construction project in Las Vegas. And so in the lower areas that were more blue collar based, construction based, they went from having substantial income beyond what they were used to and easy financing. So they encumbered themselves in homes that maybe they shouldn't have purchased. And then all of a sudden, one day the spigot went dry and you had no income. So right now, at least we still have a lot of construction. There's still a lot going on in Las Vegas that the very, very low end there, they're still doing okay. Really where we're hurting the most is in the resort casino sector, like on the strip. That's where really the majority of the pain is. But once you kind of spread out into the suburbs, I mean, restaurants are still busy. We just opened bars back up. So it seems to be life is somewhat back to normal in a lot of ways. We're really defying a lot of the logic that we thought was going to occur earlier. And then I'll get to earlier, like the high end of the market. I mean, it's arguably the best that it's ever been. It's absolutely, that's what I'm saying. There's just, it's like a dichotomy here, where some people are just succeeding and flourishing and money is just being poured in and invested. And on the other end, people are starting to really run dry and have a very difficult time. But
Yeah. And I still remember our very first conversation. One of the things I'll never forget is the first sign of pain you saw last time was a cut in lot premiums by builders.
right.
So I'm going to keep asking you, have you seen any builders cut lot prices?
No, I'm not
Yeah.
really seeing anything. I mean, again, by all measures, we're doing fantastic. New home sales, we're not quite record highs. I wouldn't say that. I mean, that's almost never going to happen again because we were just, you couldn't sell homes fast enough back then. But considering we're doing astronomically well with new homes, and again, these are high-end homes.
Yeah.
We don't really have any affordable construction like we used to as well. So that's almost twice that impact.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the numbers. It's October 7th when we're recording and publishing this. Have you had a chance to run September? And if so, did you do another record?
Yeah, we ran it. So here, let me see if I can share. Let's see if I can give you the numbers here. All right. So let me run this spreadsheet.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
So this is actually a different one. For some reason, it went to the wrong screen. Mm-hmm. So let's see. We might have some technical difficulties. All right, here we go. So if you look over here on the screen, you can see we went the month before we were at $332,000, and then we jumped up 1.1% to $336,000. So in the middle of COVID, in a year that defies all semblance of logic, we are now up 8.4% over last year. I mean, I don't know how anyone could have possibly predicted.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. So, I mean, if you look at it, last year was a great year. And this time last year, we were only up 4.4% from the year before in a great market. Wow. So, yeah. So that's a little bit of a weird one. Now, if we look at the inventory, we can kind of see here, we ended the month, we were literally only up 5 homes. So the inventory really has remained consistent. So we're keeping up.
Just so I can watch, you're pointing in inventory, but I don't see it on the screen.
Can you see on the screen here, guys? Can you see it?
I'm still seeing prices, Ben.
Okay. All right, let's see. For some reason, it is not. All right, let's see if this works.
I think it does one screen at a time.
All right, can you guys see this now? All right. So if you see right here, this is our current inventory of single family homes. So we're just under 5,000, so 4,957. You can see we ended the month last month. I mean, it's only been a 5 home change. So, I mean, literally no difference whatsoever. That's pretty impressive.
So again, you still have a supply problem. I mean, just go back to last year this time.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Yeah. Call it
so,
September
I mean,
25th, 7,500 basically?
7,500, yeah. So, I mean, we're down a third.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no way around it.
And again, this is single family homes is what this
single family homes only. But when you look at the fact, I mean, we'll get to the sales here in a moment. I mean,
it's amazing.
I'll show you the homes right now. If we go to the sales, let's see, here we go. If we go to sales from last month, I mean, this was pretty incredible as well. You can see last month right here, we sold almost 3,000 homes.
So you have less than 2 months supply.
We have a less than 2 month supply of inventory. The metric is 6 months is a balanced market.
Jesus.
So I don't necessarily agree with the 6 month metric, but I mean, 4 months, I would say in Las Vegas is pretty reasonable, but you can see clearly right here. I mean, we have less than a 2 month supply inventory. It's like what, 6 weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, look,
weeks, yeah.
I mean, look, last year, 2,500 homes.
Wow.
I mean,
so you're selling 20% more homes when you have
18% more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. 18%.
Yeah. We're up 18% month over month.
I can't fathom that. You're selling 18% more in an inventory that is 33% less into a rising market.
Right.
I mean, tie that together.
And let's also not forget the fact that these are resale homes.
Oh, that's
this
true.
Doesn't calculate into the fact that we're also selling more new homes than we sold last year. I don't have the numbers, but they are definitely higher than they were last year. So cumulatively, it's it's a tremendous amount by numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, just looking at that numbers and just thinking economic 101, supply demand, your prices are going to go up into the end of the year. I mean, I don't know how they don't. Right? I mean, logically speaking.
I mean, I don't know if we should discuss logic anymore because we're defying that on a monthly basis. But yeah, I mean, here's originally one of the metrics that I was looking at to see where we were going was going to be the mortgage forbearance bubble, right? Well, that 6-month mortgage forbearance comes up this month. However, you can elect to go back in for 6 more months.
Yeah.
So the problem is it doesn't mean that there isn't trouble lurking tremendously. But again, if you go back to 2007, I mean, no one saw what was coming. And now you look in retrospect and you're like, oh my God, there was red flags being waved everywhere. This could have never succeeded in any other scenario. And you look at this right now, and there's definitely a lot of underlying issues where we are defying logic. We're defying logic. So you still have to be concerned that the chicken still could come home to roost because the fundamentals aren't quite there. The Las Vegas Strip, tourism, jobs, I think that gets worse before things get better.
For sure.
We're heading into the worst time of year, but normally this time of year, we actually do well because while visitation is down for, vacations, et cetera, Vegas is tremendously boosted this fourth quarter by conventions.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times I've been at conventions, October through December. Probably
and now we have
nothing. Yeah. Wow.
So
that's just amazing.
No conventions. That means really no one is coming to Vegas. So you lose all of the revenue on the strip. All the restaurants lose revenue. I mean, it's a big trickle down effect, and that's likely to continue for some time. So just because things are rosy right now doesn't mean that it's going to remain rosy.
So let's talk about forbearance, because I think anybody who has a Vegas address easily qualifies for another 6 months, right? The CARES Act offered 12 months total.
Yeah.
So at least in the current world, you're going to get another 6 months. And I actually think Vegas is the leading example of inventory being delayed, right? There's people that would normally have to sell because they lost their job, right? In a normal cycle, when you or your significant other loses a job, you usually sell your home, you pick up your chips because you walk away with some equity and you move on. Now we just have that inventory sitting and people are just, not moving.
So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be very interesting how this is handled, because all of this, there is no guidance unless you have an FHA loan. There are no guidelines as to how you're going to exit your forbearance. It's up to the servicer. So if there isn't any kind of government regulation that comes into play, if it's just purely up to servicers in April, we easily could be just kicking the can down the road. And you have to consider the fact that what's going to happen for a majority, I would say, of homeowners is they're going to get hit with, hey, you haven't paid your mortgage in 6 months, now 12 months. Either pay us now, or we're going to have to raise your mortgage payment for 18 months or however long to repay it. And again, if you're in a bad position now, you're probably going to be in a bad position in April still. Yeah. So I think we're kicking the can down the road, and potentially that can turns into like an Indiana Jones boulder, because a few months ago, it's like, oh, you know what? I took a forbearance for 3 months. Things are cool. All right, we're good. We're back in the game. That's wonderful. But the person who doesn't have a job right now after 6 months, they're probably not going to get anything in the next 6 months. And now you're a year behind. I mean, that's a death blow. I mean, that's just a death blow.
Yeah. So let's play this out, because both you and I experienced the last crash. So let's just pretend there's, let's just pretend, because I don't know Nevada's, I know California's process. So let's just assume we get to April 30th, the forbearance period's over, no extension, none of that, right? Because we don't know. So now, because at this point you've completed forbearance, you and the lender have agreed to that, so you're technically not late yet.
Correct.
Right. So May 1st will be the first payment you missed, which you'll be 30 days delinquent at the end of May. Then you're 2 months, then you're 3 months. That's serious delinquent. That, historically speaking, is when an NOD could be filed, at least in California.
Correct.
So that's 4 months. So that, what is that? April, May, June. So NOD gets filed in July. That usually takes 60 to 75 days. Let's call it 90 days. So July, August, September. So as soon as foreclosure auctions could happen would be really no sooner than October or November. If all the stars aligned.
And that's true, but I think for that to really, that's not really a true concern that I have right now, because to me, that's a cataclysmic event. The reality is the majority of these people purchase properties that have appreciated in value.
So there's equity.
You may not, yeah, so you may not be able to afford your mortgage payment or that repayment plan, but by far and large, the majority of people are going to be able to just put it up for sale and leave. And let's be honest, usually the people most affected are on the lower end of the demographic scale. So the virtue there is the saturation on the low end is exceptionally high. There's like 20 buyers for every house. Okay. So cool. If all of a sudden, we do see an influx of people listing their homes for sale in April when they have that come to Jesus moment, we have enough demand in theory to absorb all those homes very, very easily. It's more of a question of how does the overall economy look? Because there's a difference between people who have to sell and we can absorb that into the inventory, which again, that low end, I just pulled comps yesterday and homes like 220,000, 230, they're gone in 2, 3, 5 days. Yeah. So there's a very, very high demand for that. The difference was last time, all of a sudden, no one wanted to buy all at the same time. Right. So the issue that I'm paying more attention to is like CoreLogic came out, I think we spoke about in the last video, that they're predicting Las Vegas and Henderson will be the worst performing markets in the entire country and go down 7.8% by July of next year. Huh. Now, the issue is if we reach a point, say beginning of the year, April, whatever it is, where all the press becomes negative, doom and gloom, Vegas is going to crash. What you don't want is a market where everyone believes that something is going to happen and then it turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy because, well, I heard Vegas is going to go down this year, so I don't want to buy. Yeah. If everyone needs to bail and no one is willing to jump in, that's when you have a major, major, major crash. And that's what happened last time. We were doing pretty well, seemed like things were slowing down. And then all of a sudden a builder came out, lowered their prices $250,000 and the writing was on the wall. And all of a sudden the next day, no one in this entire town wanted to buy anything. And it's like condos. The second you lose financing, I just looked at perfect example, Palms Place. This is a really, really crazy example. So Palms Place, the Palms Casino, it used to be the place, like the Hard Rock. Then it had some rough years. Station Casinos came in, bought the property, remodeled it. They wanted to bring it back to its glory days. It didn't quite work as planned. They overinvested in a nightclub. It just didn't work. As a result, they haven't brought back the Palms Casino. So it's just tabled for right now. Word on the street is that they're going to try to sell the Palms. Now, in the meantime, they built a condo hotel next to the Palms called Palms Place. Really cool, really modern, really swanky. Well, I was pulling comps yesterday. Last year, this same time last year, studios, which are, like hotel rooms, just not a one bedroom, just a studio. They were selling for $302,000. It's a glut of inventory. The last sale, which was like 3 weeks ago, was $165,000. Plummeted 40%. There's no financing. When it has to do with the insurance on the entire building when Stations bought it, but at the end of the day, you can't finance this project. So you lose financing, the prices just absolutely plummet because it's cash only. And now everyone's trying to bail out and no one is willing to jump in. So there are some weird things that are happening like that in Las Vegas, but these are the kind of things that you kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah. The other thing, again, trying to relate last time to this time, which is vastly different, is last time it really was a rolling wave of inventory that came on because all the banks were acting the same. This time, to your point earlier, it is going to be individual by individual. So even if you see pain in the low end, it will be sporadic. It won't be like 3,000 homes on a Monday. It'll be like, oh, there's 3 here and 6 here and 4 there. So yeah, assuming you don't have the demand deteriorate, you'll be able to absorb it like it's nothing.
And here's another thing that we haven't really been discussing is comparing last time to this time. You also have to remember, at least in Las Vegas, again, we're talking in Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, you had mom and pops that in conventional years would never have been investors. And they were owning 3, 4 homes.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, because they weren't real investors, they were speculators. They were losing $300, $400, $800 a month in rent, unsustainable amounts, because they were prospecting on the fact or speculating that in 2 years they could sell it and then retire and be rich. What people are forgetting about Las Vegas is that, yes, Blackstone, all these hedge funds came in and bought thousands of homes as rentals. One, especially because of COVID, yeah, would you rather live in an apartment right now, or would you rather be in a house? That's why residential housing as rentals have gone through the roof as far as demand and pricing. Apartments are less in demand. But you got to remember, all of these investors that purchase all of these properties have tremendous amounts of equity.
Oh.
When these hedge funds were buying, they were buying at 50 cents on today's dollar. And any investor, these are real investors. These aren't prospecting people like we had 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Great
so
point.
If you have a rental property that's making you $400 a month, do you really care if the property is going down necessarily? Because you can ride out any wave. Demand is high and you're running cash flow. That was not the case before. And people were buying homes. They were living in homes that were twice what they could afford because they were on an adjustable rate mortgage, and they were going to sell it and be rich. Now you have people that are living in homes to truly occupy homes and have equity. So comparing it to last time, I never thought it was even possible to be, I thought if everything went to hell, we'd be 50% as bad as it was last time, meaning we would lose 25% value if the stars aligned in a terrible way. At this junction, we still have to see. I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but I don't see that level of a catastrophic event necessarily.
Yeah, if we're talking single family homes, I'm starting to believe, like you, that, worst case, and again, I'll say my opinion because, hey, it's my channel. I think the worst case for Vegas, and it's going to be 2022, is 10% negative. And again, between now and then, you're probably up 5 or 6% as well.
And exactly it. Originally, I said you probably see 10 to 25%. 25% is if everything goes to hell. 10% is probably more realistic. But yeah, the funny thing is look how much we're still appreciating. Yeah. So even if we do see that 10% dip, it also was mitigated by this unexpected increase in value. So again, there's a lot of things that need to occur. And then the other catalyst that we're seeing tremendously disproportionately from norm is everyone leaving California.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting we always have migration from California, but we're seeing migration on levels that I've never seen in 30 years. And I'll get to that here in a second. If we talk about the saturation levels, the high-end market is it's unprecedented what's happening here. So California is driving so many people out, and there's so many wealthy people. Las Vegas has done a tremendous job of building some communities. Now we have culture, we have high-end restaurants, we have a lot of aspects that, we didn't have 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So it was difficult for some people in metro markets in California that wanted certain things. We just didn't really have that to offer in the residential component. And now it exists. And so many wealthy individuals from California are fleeing because of taxes, politics, social issues. And so that's the big catalyst that might keep everything equalized.
I think it's going to, yeah. Let's show the saturation. I think that is just going to point to it big time, I think.
Yeah, so here we go. Let's see. So, all right. Well, that's weird.
That's your email, is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's weird. It didn't quite work. Here we go. Let's give this another shot. All right. This should work. All right. And homes under contract. All right. So what this the reason I started this metric is because I wanted to see what effect coming out of COVID was going to have on our market.
Yep.
So the best way to think about it, homes under contract by percentage. Think of this as a saturation level. So let's just kind of skip to the low end and the high end. When we came out of quarantine right here, we had about 1,300 homes on the market. 47% were under contract. This is coming right out of COVID. Now, if you look at it now, 58% are under contract. So it's even tighter, that market. Now, here's where things get wonky. Let's follow over here. Obviously, when you're dealing with over $1.5 million, especially in Vegas, once you go over 3 million, there's only like 4 or 5 sales typically a year. That has changed drastically. I just worked with clients that, 2 family members buying $5 million compound. And we were looking at, $3 million homes, and it was absurd. They would pick a home that was $1.8 million. We'd have 4 to look at on Friday. 4 days later, 2 were already under contract. That just doesn't happen when you're talking about $2 million homes in Las Vegas. Now, look at this. Coming out of COVID, 11% of homes over $1.5 million were under contract. This is important because obviously when you're on the ultra high-end luxury market, you're dealing with the most astute buyers possible. These are the ones most concerned about politics, the economy, not squandering money, the presence and importance of having capital. And look at this. Every month as we go down, 13, 16, 17, we're now at 19%.
Wow.
We're doubling the amount of saturation. Doubled. That is really, really bizarre, in the midst of the pandemic, with an election. I mean, you can see, right here, pretty much across the board, we dipped a little bit, 750, dipped a little bit from 1 million, a little bit 500, but we've gone up on the low end. So how bizarre is that? The middle, but yet the low end is up and the high end is up. Really, really an interesting way of looking at it, because when we had the crash, that's kind of exactly where the 2 biggest were felt, was on the low end and on the exceptionally high end. Those are the 2 most bizarre places. And
Wow.
Now it's kind of reversed right now, high end. And a lot of it too is with this cheap money. A lot of high wealth individuals are looking at it. I just had a guy, he bought a $2 million home, and he was able to get a 10-1 arm, which sounds weird, but a 10-1 arm, and he got 2.5% interest on a jumbo loan. And his rationale, he said, look, I've got $5 million in the bank, but if you're going to give me money at 2.5% interest all day long, I'm going to take it because I can beat that spread.
Oh, for sure.
I can make money if you're going to lend me at 2.5%. So a lot of these individuals are just taking the cheap money and putting it into real estate.
Wow.
So, and then you have to remember, 1.5 million is a lot here in Las Vegas, but if you're from the Bay, if you're in areas of Southern California, it's chump change. Yeah. So a lot of people are just seeing the value and the affordability here and the lifestyle and just saying, we're out.
We're out. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that you're doing this report. This saturation thing is gold. And I think that'll be the first chart. I think, if we fast forward a year, that would probably be, of all the charts you have, the one that kind of highlights pain first.
And that's why I did it, is because I wanted to see, if we do start crashing, which segments are the most volatile, right? Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to follow, because I don't really even have a prediction here. Yeah. I'm just trying to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're not. The data is the data, right? It's a number, and you track it every couple of weeks, and that's going to be the crystal ball for us, I think. So it's going to be really cool. So Brian, how could people get a hold of you? Maybe they want to leave California and buy a house. They should give you a ring.
Love it. Yeah, so you can go to the website, lebogroup.com, LEB as in boy, GROUP.com. You can call or text. Just shoot me a text, 702-257-LEBO, 257-LEBO. Best way.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for your doing, man. This is great. Have a wonderful week. All right.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you next time.
You got it, buddy.
See you, everyone.